Hello everyone and welcome to Audit Trails. Today we'll be talking about ISA 560 subsequent events. Now, financial statements may be affected by certain events that occur after reporting date or that is subsequent to our reporting date or year end. So they are called as subsequent events. They can be of two types, adjusting and non-adjusting. So adjusting ones are the events which provide evidence of conditions at reporting date. So for these events, as the name suggests, we'll have to change, alter or adjust our financial statements. But for non-adjusting ones, we simply have to make disclosures in our notes to accounts because they provide evidence of conditions which arose after our reporting date. Now we have a timeline here. This timeline will help us to understand how the auditor's responsibility will change according to the different time period. Now, for example, we have our year end date. Let's say 31st March. After our year end, there will be a date when the auditor's report will be signed, and after that, there will be a date when the financial statement, along with the auditor's report, will be issued for the general public. So, the role of the auditor in this period, that is before he signs the audit report and after his signature, but before the financial statements being issued, will be completely different. That is, the responsibility in this period, and in this period will be entirely different. How so? We'll look into that. Starting from our period 1, that is the time period between our financial year end and before the auditor signs his audit opinion. Now, during this period, the auditor will have an active duty, that is, he will purposely perform procedures both first for identification of any subsequent event and after identification proper procedures on those identified subsequent events as well. Moving on to our period 2, that is the time period between the date of audit report and the date when the financial statements will be issued for the general public. During this time, the auditor will no longer have active duty to search for any subsequent events because obviously he already has signed his report. But if an information becomes known to the auditor that had he known prior to issuing his report, he would have changed his opinion or would have given a different opinion. For example, a qualified instead of an adverse opinion or an modified instead of an unmodified opinion. In those circumstances only, he will have to perform procedures that too specific to those subsequent events. Similar is the case for our period 3, that is after the financial statements are issued. During this time, if the auditor becomes known or is informed about any subsequent events that would have changed his audit report, in those circumstances, he will have to perform procedures regarding only those subsequent events.
Let us quickly revise what happens in these three periods. So, our first period starts with the beginning of our financial year till the time our audit report is ready or signed. So, as discussed, during this period, the auditor has an active duty that we will do all the audit work. We will perform procedures, we will collect evidence, we'll try to build an audit opinion, and that opinion has to be based on all these facts, which has been checked and validated by us. So, this work is done during the period 1, that is the period starting from our financial year till the time we sign an audit report. But the period after that is again divided into two different periods. First is the period which starts from the period when we sign our audit report till the time it is issued along with the financial statements to the general public, and there's a period after the financial statements have been issued. So under both of these periods, the auditor has similar duties. That is, we will not perform any audit work relating to the prior period except when we come to know of a situation or any extreme circumstance which was earlier not disclosed, but if we had known, we would have given a different audit report. Only in those circumstances we will perform procedures, and those procedures will be to that particular event only. Talking from examination point of view, there's no set pattern or there's no particular way in which we can say that a particular ISA can be questioned or examined, but there are certain hints from the question we'll get, and we'll get to know what ISA can be applied. Since we are studying this subsequent event ISA, so in our question paper there might be a certain paragraph which says that a certain subsequent event was identified and a small story would be there to follow it up. So immediately this ISA should click into your mind, and all these procedures which we are going to discuss forward should be recapped, or you should be able to recall all this so that you are able to give a sensible answer. That's why I say that in our question paper it is very easy to understand what ISA is going to be implemented, provided that you know certain specific ISAs, and it becomes very easy because all the information is already given in the question. You just have to connect the dots, follow the puzzle, make a picture, and then answer.
Now, circling back to our period 1, that is the time period after our financial year end but before the auditor issues his audit opinion. Now, during this period, the auditor will have to actively search for any subsequent events, and that too, he will have to perform procedures. So, those procedures will include these following. Firstly, the auditor will gain understanding of any procedures if put in place by the management to recognize the subsequent events. Then, the auditor will directly inquire with management and those charged with governance regarding any subsequent events that might occur and affect the financial statements. So, both of these two procedures is like auditor directly going and asking the management regarding the information which they require. But after that, procedures such as reading the minutes of the meeting or reviewing the latest interim financial reports is auditor's way of digging up of information, that is indirectly searching for the information which might have been left out or missed by the management or the auditor, both of them. After that, the auditor will simply ask for written representation from management that all those subsequent events that should have been disclosed and adjusted for are appropriately treated or not. Now, in period 2, remember the auditor will not actively or deliberately perform procedures for the identification of any subsequent events. But if information becomes known to the auditor, then he will have to take these following steps. Firstly, he will discuss the matter with the management, then determine whether amendments are needed or not, and if they are required or amendments should be made, then talk or inquire with the management that how they intend to address the matter. Then for period 3, this is the time again when the auditor will not actively perform procedures, because frankly speaking the financial statements have now also been issued for the general public and the auditor's role or responsibility are finished. But again, if information becomes known to the auditor, then he will take the following steps. Again, discuss with the management, determine whether amendments are needed or not, and if amendments are required, then in those circumstances the auditor will have to request to recall the financial statements and make amendments. If the amendments are made by the management, then the auditor will form a new report, and therefore this matter will also be disclosed in the emphasis of matter paragraph of that new report. But if amendments are not made, In those circumstances, the auditor will have to make announcement where in the newspaper, and that to the relevant stock exchange as well.